Hi, friends. Hi again. It's another day. We get to delve into some more things about grief. And I don't want this to be super heavy stuff because I don't know, grief is just something that people don't like to talk about, but it's kind of odd because, in a world where nothing is off limits for us to talk about, all you have to do is go on social media and you can see just about everything laid bare. We will talk about every single thing except grief and the emotional components in it. So that's really mystifying, but I want to kind of break it down a little bit for you. There are, six primary myths about dealing with grief. I'm only going to review one of them, but here is the list of them. The first one is don't feel bad, and that's probably the foundational one. Everything else flows from that. Replace the loss is another one. Grieve alone. Grief just takes time, or time heals everything, which is a very, untrue statement. Be strong and be strong for others, and also keep busy. And none of these things is helpful in helping us to get past grief. And the thing about not talking about grief is that, we lose the ability to express really important things that we need to say to people, either during a grief event that's in progress, like a relationship dissolving, a divorce, but also we want to make sure that we have the capacity to say difficult things and say what's on our hearts to people that are loved ones who we may lose at some point. Undelivered communications is a huge predictor of the how grief will impact you when you lose a loved one. So let's talk about don't feel bad. Just as an example, I had one of my sisters lost her husband a couple years ago, not quite 2 years ago, and she was really smart and had a celebration of life for him while he was still living. And at one point during that event, she spontaneously burst into tears. Total normal reaction and expected and 100% valid and okay. And someone went up to her and put his arm around her and said, "Don't cry." Well, that's really, really unhelpful. And the underlying message is it's not okay for you to feel your grief, especially not in front of people. It makes everybody uncomfortable. And of course, I know that's not what this person meant, but this is what this is what we have learned from the time we were little, is to just hide our grief, grieve alone, and just don't feel bad and kind of get over it. So let's talk about don't feel bad. This is super limiting. This suggests that feeling bad or sad is not an appropriate reaction. And it's really baffling to be told that we're not supposed to acknowledge the way that we feel about something, or have it feel, be told that, or be treated as if there's something wrong with us. And when we shut down our difficult emotions, our sadness, even our anger or our confusion, or things that we're, you know um, people try to keep it to ourselves. That's a really bad way of putting that. Um, but we then begin to also not be able to express happy emotions as well. So it doesn't put emotions in silos. It just overall teaches us that we're not supposed to express things. And unfortunately, this is very predominant in our society with men. Um, this is, a lot of women have trouble with this too, but men are supposed to be strong and not talk about their emotions. And 100% of the time, that is a very detrimental thing for our relationships, our health, whether physical or mental, as we get older. It's kind of been estimated that by the time a child is 15, they've heard thousands of times in some form or another that they shouldn't feel bad in reaction to a grief event, or that they should grieve alone, keep that to themselves. And so any of the six of these myths, is important to talk about, but because this is the primary one, let's just talk about how that shows up when kids are little. So let's say a child has a tough time at school one day. Maybe they've been bullied, or maybe they were made fun of in some way, or something happened that made them feel less than. We as adults tend to not see these things as large as a child would. We don't we know that other, happier times will come, and this is not a huge event. But when a child comes home and we don't fully listen to them, and we try to bypass that by distracting them, and that happens from the time they're little. And this is something that's actually we talk about that in the Grief Recovery Handbook. They come home and you say, here, have a cookie. You'll feel better. Or maybe they have a pet that dies, and we say, we can get you another one, you'll feel better tomorrow. So all of this just sends a very subtle message that it's not okay to grieve. And the child, when they're placated in some way, they're automatically going to feel a little bit different, but they're not going to feel better. They're still going to be carrying that in the back of their mind. And there's a saying that I love, that grief is cumulative, and it's cumulatively negative. And that is so true. So when we stuff this emotional pain all the time, and we pretend that it's not that bad, and we feel that we're inhibited about speaking with it, it can really cause some long-term issues. Um, we're taught that the right thing to do is kind of cover it up and forget about it. So while distracting a child is relatively easy, it is definitely not the thing to do. And this is not an indictment of anything that you've done as a parent. I did this my whole life as a parent. And I wish I had known some of these things when my kids were growing up, because I could have helped them prevent some problems in their adult lives, by being more open to listening even to the small things. Of course, I listen to the really big things, but it's even the small things you have to listen to. And we're all equipped with the capacity to feel and express our emotions, whether they're happy or sad ones. And so as parent figures, as authority figures, teachers, it's really our job to help them understand that it's okay, and that they don't have to bury their emotions. Now, that is not to say that it needs to be made a very big thing, but listening is such an important skill. Um, but the other part of this is also that when we bury our sad emotions, we also begin to limit the our ability to feel happiness, feel any emotions at all. It really is kind of stunts our emotional growth overall. So, yeah, there's the other 5 that I wanna go into as well, but, just know that, this don't feel bad thing is insidious, and it is something that can impact our lives even as adults. And I know that you can think of this maybe in your own life, or the people that you observe, the way that this plays out over time, because you can tell someone is suffering, but they've been told not to feel bad, so they're not talking about it. And something is wrong, and that may even lead to things like substance abuse. So I want to end on a happy note. There is a way around this, even if you've had a whole life of this. It can be addressed and talked about, and new learning can take place. And that's what I do in my work here at Inspired Grief Recovery. So stay tuned for the next one. See you later, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.